It's an annual debate on Beacon Hill. Will there or won't there be a sales tax-free weekend in August? And this year it's not looking good for retailers and shoppers who may have been counting on one. But state lawmakers have been wary of saying yes in a time of continuing revenue shortfalls. Governor Charlie Baker did propose a tax holiday for next weekend, but today lawmakers shipped that proposal to committee where other bills like it have been sitting for months. Joining me now is John Hurst. He's president of Retailers, easy for me to say, John, Association of Massachusetts, and the man leading the charge to put a holiday and a permanent cut on the sales tax on the 2018 ballot. Good to see you, John.
Thanks,
Chris Dempsey, Director of Transportation for Massachusetts, and you know him as former co-chair of No Boston Olympics. Chris, good to see you too.
Jim.
So let's start small dollars and then go big dollars if we can, John. Why the sales tax holiday? Why is it such a good idea?
Well, it's a proven winner. And frankly, with what's happening with the Internet, driven by smartphone commerce, mobile commerce that is proliferating, we all know that, this is a life preserver for these small businesses on Main Street, which frankly have an anchor, a 6.25% anchor around their neck. It's just keeping their heads afloat at a time we're seeing proliferating dark storefronts across the Commonwealth.
When you say proven winner, it's a proven loser in terms of state finances. You mean winner in what way?
Well, you know, that's what the bean counters have said, relying upon a story, you know, going back to 2004. Because, frankly, these are sales we weren't going to get in the first place. These are tax-sensitive sales that were going to the Internet or going to New Hampshire. And you know what? How does it cost us any money if we weren't going to get these sales in the first place? They were also impulse buys. If the consumers weren't going in the stores in the first place, the sales weren't being made.
Did he convince you, Chris?
Not at all. And I think there are two separate issues here. There's the reduction of the sales tax, which John is pushing, and then also the sales tax holiday.
We'll get to the reduction of the sales tax in a minute.
When you look at the sales tax holiday, what economists have found is basically it just shifts purchases around. So we might want to go buy a couch or a refrigerator. We wait to do that until the sales tax holiday is in place, and then we buy it. So there's not a lot of new spending. It's really just less tax revenue to pay for the things that we need, whether that's the MBTA, whether that's police and fire. And by the way, a lot of those things are things that John's members rely on. They need people to get to work, they need people to get to their stores, and they need fire and police.
But Chris, $25 million, let's assume he's wrong and government is right. It's $25 million. If it gives a psychological boost, if nothing else, both to the shopper and to the retailer, isn't that small potatoes out of $40 billion?
Relatively, it is small potatoes, and I think that's why you've seen someone like Governor Baker say he wants it this year. But we are in a world where every single dollar counts, and we don't want to see cuts in those areas.
When you
said
the
Federal Reserve actually did a study on Massachusetts, on sales tax holidays, but used Massachusetts as the test case back in March. And they showed clearly it was new money. These were sales that weren't going to happen and have happened. And we lost those sales last year and this year.
Very quickly, if Governor Baker thought it was such a good idea, why did he wait until the legislature wasn't even here? A lot of cynics think he wanted the best of both worlds, to file it and know it wouldn't happen so we wouldn't lose the money. You agree with that, don't you?
I don't know. Look, there were bills have been in there all year long. The legislature wouldn't move them. You know.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, let's talk about. He wanted to make a point, and we like the point. We like the spotlight.
Okay, I got him to agree. $25 million isn't that much money. I'm not even going to ask him if $1 billion is a lot of money. If you get your way, you have questions. You're going to collect signatures, assuming the Attorney General says they're appropriate for the ballot, to cut the sales tax permanently by at least $1 billion a year. 1 point would be roughly $1 billion, maybe more. Make the case in the context of the legislature just doing a budget where they had to cut. I just wrote just a couple of things down. They had to cut emergency shelter program for homeless kids because they $400 million below estimates. Some law enforcement money for gamblers treatment initiatives. How can you argue the state can do with even $1 billion less and meet its needs in addition to what he listed?
Look, we're concerned about small businesses, Jim. They're closing each and every day across this Commonwealth on main streets in 351 cities and towns. Those are important to me. Their customers are important to me. These small businesses serve a lot of lower-income families and also seniors on fixed incomes, which increasingly are facing a regressive sales tax. Our sales tax is too high in Massachusetts. It's actually a bad incentive, government-imposed incentive. It's driving consumers to take their dollars outside the Commonwealth.
You're not doing one of these supply
good?
side things where you're saying if we cut the sales tax, we're going to take in as much money because people are going to stay here to buy things. Is that part of your case?
What I'm saying is right now government is telling our consumers to take tens of billions of dollars and spend it with sellers outside the Commonwealth because that gives you a 6.25% upfront discount.
How about it? You can drive to New Hampshire, you're not supposed to, stick a refrigerator in your trunk and drive it back, Chris.
Jim, we don't want to be New Hampshire or Rhode Island. The reason that the Massachusetts economy is going so well is because we make investments in transportation and most importantly in education and also local services. Those are things that we do better than almost anywhere else in the country. It's why Amazon's coming here, why GE comes here, other companies like that. If we want that to keep going today and in the future, we need to make those investments. And people should know that the sales tax goes to the MBTA, it goes to school building in local communities, and it goes to local services. Again, things like police and fire that John's members rely on. So what he's proposing is to shift the tax burden away from his members to other people, despite the fact that they benefit from those services.
No, actually away from low-income families. Low-income families, working families, and seniors on fixed incomes. They're the ones that don't escape the sales tax. Frankly, the millennials carrying around a smartphone all the time, they're constantly, increasingly avoiding the sales tax.
But the ones you said can't escape it are exactly the ones he's talking about, who are most dependent upon state and local services that get sacrificed, as we've evidenced.
And they are paying a disproportionate amount of money on a very high sales tax where, you know, people like Chris and I can avoid it anytime we want to, and increasingly are.
Can I use one of the lines on you? I hate this line, so I don't know why but it's been used on me often. What don't you understand about no? Were you behind the effort to reduce the sales tax to 3% a couple of years ago?
We were not. We were neutral. It went too far. And
you agree
it didn't
went
get
too
crushed.
far.
It went down 56%.
Well, that's
so
crushing.
With no campaign, even the retailing industry wasn't pushing it. So what we're proposing is a more reasonable, you know, look, the state budget keeps on exploding. It's doubled in 15 years. What small businesses seen their income, their sales grow, you know, at that level, or our working families see their incomes go up. We need to start dealing with helping our small businesses and helping our low-income families.
Can we talk politics for just the remaining second here?
Sure.
I would argue in normal times, even if John doesn't like to hear this thing would have no chance. I would say on this ballot, you might be in trouble here. Because on the same day people are voting to lower or not the sales tax, they're voting to raise the income tax on millionaires, those who earn more than $1 million a year. I can see the campaign now. Okay, you vote to raise it $2 billion a year from millionaires for transportation and infrastructure, and at the same time save yourself $1 billion by cutting the sales tax, which affects you. Raise taxes on people that are not you, cut taxes on people who are you. Aren't you worried about that?
Well, look, the local aid is the most important part here. And that's what's going to get cut if we cut the sales tax. So again, police and fire.
But you are worried about what I'm talking about,
yeah,
are you not?
Look, I think people are going to have that conversation, but we have a lot of faith in Massachusetts voters that they're going to say yes on the millionaire's tax and they're going to say no on reducing the sales tax.
Same year they said no to the 3% sales tax, they got rid of the sales tax on alcohol, sort of a trade-off like this, you know?
Look, these are complicated questions, and John is making it more complicated with these questions. He's a good advocate for his members. He's got Walmart and Target and Best Buy. This is not about Main Street. It's about
We're doing this for small businesses, and we wish the big business folks that are trying to tax small businesses and independents would actually care about small businesses and put the rhetoric, you know, put real positions behind the rhetoric.
15 more months to discuss this, I'm sure we'll. John, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
It's great to see you as well. Thanks, John. We really appreciate it.